Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are diving deep into U.S. politics today. And yeah, things are pretty wild right now.
Yeah,
Got a whole bunch of recent news articles. And let's just say
it's a lot.
it's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
So what we're going to try to do today is cut through the noise, figure out what's really important, and hopefully help you understand how it all might affect you.
I think one of the most interesting things right now is just how many big things are happening all at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got legal battles, we've got international tensions, and we've got the return of some very familiar and very controversial
You're
figure.
seeking familiar faces. Trump is back in the White House.
He is.
And this time he's got Elon Musk right there with him.
Yeah.
So, that already makes things a little bit
A little bit unpredictable.
unpredictable, to say the least.
It is interesting to remember that this isn't Trump's first time in the Oval Office.
Right?
You know, he knows how this all works. He's
Alright.
got his allies. And let's be honest, he probably had some scores to settle.
Oh, yeah.
So that dynamic alone creates a very specific kind of tension.
Yeah.
And then you add in Elon Musk, who is basically the definition of disruption and who is constantly pushing the boundaries of what's considered acceptable. And, well,
Get the popcorn.
let's just say things are going to be interesting.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of interesting, remember that federal worker buyout program?
Oh, yeah.
Over 50,000 people signed up for that thing.
I know, that's like 2% of the entire federal workforce.
It is 2%. And then a judge just suddenly put a stop to the whole thing.
Yeah, just completely slammed on the brakes.
I know. So what does that even mean
Right.
for the government? Like, how are they going to function?
Exactly.
Right.
And what happens to all those people who are ready to leave their jobs?
Yeah.
And what about the legality of the program in the first place?
Right.
It's a huge deal. It's a situation with big implications,
Yeah.
both for those workers and for the government as a whole.
Absolutely. And while we're on the topic of legal challenges, we can't forget about the lawsuit that Trump has filed against CBS.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Jake Tapper even highlighted this video from the case.
Yeah.
It seems like a pretty big deal,
Yeah.
though we don't really know the specifics yet.
This is definitely one to watch. You know, it could easily escalate into a much bigger fight
Totally.
about the role of the media and freedom of the press.
Hmm.
And especially with someone like Trump, who has a history of clashing with journalists,
Yeah.
you know, the potential for this to really impact how the media operates and how it's treated is pretty concerning.
For sure. And then on the international scene, we've got Trump's proposal to take control of the Gaza Strip,
Oh, yeah.
which is causing quite a stir.
It's a big one.
I mean, resettlement of Palestinians, U.S. development in the territory, it's a bold move.
Definitely.
And it's getting a lot of pushback.
Oh, yeah. There's intense criticism coming from all the Arab countries.
Right.
Egypt is actively lobbying against it, and Jordan has basically said straight up that this is going to cause chaos. And it's not just from the outside either. Some Republicans are even voicing concerns about the cost and the long-term consequences of this whole thing.
Yeah. Okay, so everyone take a deep breath because
Yeah.
we are now entering the Elon Musk zone.
Buckle up.
I know. Buckle up. Because this is where things get really wild.
Yeah.
He's not content with just shaking up Twitter. He's now running the Department of Government Efficiency.
Which, by the way, is now conveniently shortened to DOGE.
I love that.
Yeah, it kind of works out perfectly.
It does. It's perfect.
Mhm.
But it's not just the name that's interesting.
Yeah.
We have to remember that Musk isn't just another political appointee.
He's not.
He is a powerful figure in his own right.
Right.
He has a massive following and a track record of completely transforming entire industry.
Exactly.
So him being in the White House really raises some serious questions
It does.
about how decisions are being made and who's really pulling the strings.
Right. Who really has the power?
Yeah, and his impact on Twitter.
Or X, I guess we should say.
I know I keep forgetting to call it X. His impact on X is undeniable.
I mean, just think about that whole fork in the road ultimatum he gave to all the employees.
Oh, yeah.
Like, accept the new Twitter or get out.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people chose to walk away. And now we're seeing lawsuits popping up all over the place.
Yeah, so we've got this platform with billions of users
Right.
and a huge influence on global politics.
Huge.
And it's going through a radical transformation.
It is.
It's kind of amazing to watch.
Yeah.
And we're already seeing the ripple effects.
We are.
There are all these debates about free speech,
Yeah.
concerns about online safety, and a lot of questions about what role social media will play in the future of politics.
Big questions.
Big questions. And as if all that wasn't enough, Musk is also the driving force behind this very controversial plan to basically dismantle US-E8,
Yeah, he's really shaken things up,
which has caused a huge uproar.
especially within the agency itself.
Oh, I bet.
This is a move that could have global consequences. USAID plays a vital role in all sorts of humanitarian aid and development projects all around the world. And dismantling it wouldn't just impact the agency's employees, it could destabilize entire regions that rely on U.S. assistance.
Wow.
So the potential for more poverty, disease, and unrest is a very real concern.
It's like Musk has his fingers in every pie.
He does, doesn't he?
I know he's close with Trump. He's using X to push the administration's agenda, and he's even trying to control government spending.
Yeah, he's trying to do it all.
I know. It's a level of influence that really makes you wonder about conflicts of interest,
It does.
especially when you consider Musk's business holdings,
Hmm.
particularly in China.
Yeah, and his access to sensitive government data is also a big concern.
Oh, yeah. We're definitely going to have to dive into those specific
Yeah.
controversies surrounding Musk, like his attempts to halt U.S. aid spending
Yeah.
and his access to all that sensitive Treasury data.
For sure. These are things that are already facing legal challenges. You've got some people who are pushing for accountability and others who are defending Musk's approach as, a necessary shakeup of the system.
Right.
It's a real clash of ideologies playing out on a very public stage,
Yeah,
and it could have huge consequences.
absolutely. And in the middle of all this chaos, some former Twitter employees are actually offering advice to federal workers who are trying to navigate this whole crazy situation.
It's kind of nice of them.
It is. They're sharing practical tips on everything from documentation and secure communication
Mhm.
to, when to actually get a lawyer involved.
It's a good reminder that this isn't just some abstract political battle.
Right.
Like, real people's lives and careers are being affected by this.
Yes.
And it's really important to have some strategies for dealing with this new and often unsettling landscape.
For sure. And then just to throw one more log on the fire,
Okay.
we've got Trump imposing sanctions on the International Criminal Court,
Oh, yeah.
which is drawing a lot of criticism from international legal experts and human rights organizations.
It's a move that could have a real impact on international justice and the perception of the U.S.'s commitment to human rights.
Yeah.
It's not just about politics. This is a potential shift in U.S. foreign policy
Right.
that could have major consequences on the world stage.
Okay, so wow, we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
From Trump's return and the fallout from the federal worker buyout program to the rise of Elon Musk and all these changes he's making. It's clear that we're in a period of intense change and uncertainty.
It is, and it's moving fast.
It is. But what really strikes me is...
What's really interesting is how all these seemingly separate events are actually connected.
Yeah.
They're all related to these larger trends and themes, the shifting dynamics of power, the growing role of technology in our lives, and the future of U.S. leadership, both at home and abroad.
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
So let's just all take a moment to let this all sink in before we jump into the next part of our analysis.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's important to really process these complex issues and not get overwhelmed by all the information.
Exactly. So to all of our listeners out there,
Yes.
take a moment to breathe, maybe grab a cup of coffee or tea, and we'll be right back to continue our deep dive into this fascinating and constantly evolving political landscape.
Sounds good. Welcome back, everyone. Before the break, we were talking about how all these seemingly separate events are actually connected to some much larger themes that are playing out on the world stage.
Right. It is a lot to take in, and I think it's easy to feel overwhelmed when we're constantly bombarded with so much information.
Really is.
But I think that's why we're here,
Exactly.
to try to help make sense of it all. And, one figure who keeps popping up in all of this is Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah.
He's everything.
He's become this larger-than-life character.
He really has.
Real enigma.
A total enigma.
It's like he stepped out of a science fiction novel.
This brilliant entrepreneur pushing the boundaries of technology.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he makes these impulsive decisions.
He does.
And his political views are, well, let's just say they're not exactly mainstream.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. He's a walking paradox.
He is.
I mean, on one hand, you've got him spearheading these incredible innovations.
With Tesla and SpaceX.
Yeah, but on the other hand, he often acts in ways that seem reckless, even irresponsible.
Yeah.
And his involvement in politics has definitely ruffled some feathers.
Oh, absolutely. But he's also incredibly popular.
He is.
With a certain segment of the population.
For sure.
They see him as a rebel, a disruptor,
Yeah.
someone who's not afraid to challenge the status quo.
I think you've hit on something important there. There's a real appeal to his maverick persona. People are drawn to his boldness, his willingness to shake things up. But we also have to remember that actions have consequences.
Right.
And when you have someone with that much power and influence operating without much accountability,
Yeah.
it can be dangerous.
It can.
Hmm.
And I think a perfect example of that is what's happening with U.S. aid.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, dismantling an organization that provides vital humanitarian aid.
Right.
That's not just some abstract policy decision.
It's not.
It's going to have real-world consequences for millions of people.
Absolutely. We're talking about potential increases in poverty, disease instability
Yeah.
in regions that are already struggling.
Right.
It's a move that could have devastating humanitarian consequences.
It could.
And I think it's important to keep that human element front and center in this discussion.
I completely agree. And it's not just U.S. aid. We're seeing this trend towards shrinking government programs,
Yeah.
this increasingly volatile social media landscape,
Right.
and this general sense of uncertainty about the future.
Totally. And I think that's what's causing so much anxiety for people.
I think so, too.
You know, they're looking at all these changes and wondering what it means for their jobs, their communities, their lives.
Absolutely.
And it's totally understandable to feel that way.
Yeah, so where do we go from here? What can we even do as individuals when we're faced with such massive shifts in the world around us?
I mean, for one thing, we can't just bury our heads in the sand and pretend it's not happening. We have to stay informed. We have to engage in critical thinking, and we have to be willing to have those uncomfortable conversations
Yes.
about the direction our country and the world are heading in.
I love that. It's not about giving in to fear or despair. It's about empowering ourselves with knowledge
Exactly.
and taking action.
We have voices, we have votes, and we have the power to hold our leaders accountable.
Yes, we do.
But in order to do that effectively, we need to be informed and engaged.
And speaking of being informed, I think it's amazing that some of those former Twitter employees
Oh, yeah.
are using their experiences to try to help federal workers navigate these turbulent times.
It is nice of them to do that.
It is. And their advice on documentation, secure communication, knowing when to seek legal counsel,
Right.
that's incredibly valuable.
It is. It reminds us that we're not alone in this.
Right.
You know, other people have faced similar challenges.
Yeah.
And their experiences can provide us with practical guidance and support.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Okay, so as we kind of wrap up this section of our deep dive, what are some of the most important things
Yeah.
for our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that we are living in a time of immense change.
We are.
The old rules don't apply anymore, and the traditional power structures are being challenged.
Right.
And this creates both risks and opportunities.
Yeah.
And it's up to each of us to decide how we want to navigate this new world.
I love that. It's not about being passive observers. It's about being active participants in shaping our own future.
Exactly. We need to be informed, engaged, and willing to speak up for what we believe in.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And we need to support each other.
Yeah.
Because we're all in this together.
So on that note, let's take another quick break to gather our thoughts.
Okay.
And then we'll be back in a few minutes
Sounds good.
to explore some final insights and discuss what all of this means for the average person. And we're back. I don't know about you, but I am feeling a little mentally exhausted from all this.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot.
It is.
It's a lot to process. But I think that feeling is actually really important.
It is.
Because it highlights why we need to break down these complex issues and think about how they affect everyday people.
Right, because at the end of the day, it's not just about political games or power struggles.
Right.
It's about people's lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's try to connect the dots here.
Right.
We've got a potential reduction in the federal workforce. We've got international aid programs being dismantled. And we've got a social media environment that's becoming increasingly unpredictable and honestly a bit scary.
It is, and it's creating a lot of anxiety for people.
It is.
I mean, they're understandably worried about what all this means for their jobs, their families, their futures.
Right.
These are legitimate concerns.
Absolutely. It's not just about abstract political ideologies.
It's about real people trying to make sense of a world that seems to be changing faster than ever.
It really is.
And that's where I think the advice from those former Twitter employees is so valuable.
It is. You know, they've been through a similar upheaval,
Yeah.
and they're offering practical tips on how to navigate this new landscape.
Right.
Documenting everything. Using secure communication channels, knowing when to seek legal counsel.
Yeah.
Like, these are all essential strategies for protecting yourself
Right.
during uncertain times.
It's a good reminder that even when things feel really chaotic, we're not alone in this.
We're not.
There are other people who have faced similar challenges.
Right.
And their experiences can help us find our way.
Exactly. And it really reinforces the importance of community
Yes.
and supporting each other.
Absolutely.
You know, we're all trying to figure this out together.
So as we wrap up this deep dive today, What are some of the most important things for our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that we're living in an era of rapid and profound change. The old rules don't apply anymore. The traditional power structures are being challenged.
Right.
This creates both risks and opportunities.
It does.
And it's up to each of us to decide how we want to navigate this new world.
I love that. It's not about being passive bystanders. It's about being active participants in
Right.
shaping our own future.
Exactly. We need to be informed,
Yeah.
engaged, and willing to speak up for what we believe in. And we need to support each other because we're all in this together.
Well said. That is a perfect note to end on. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this deep dive into U.S. politics.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you found it informative, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit empowering.
It's been great talking with you.
And don't forget to continue exploring these topics on your own. The more informed we are, the better equipped we'll be to face the challenges and seize the opportunities that lie ahead. Until next time.
See that?